Yeah, put your phone away. She's on the air. We're broadcasting. It's the Doug Show. Oh, you guys all know Matt, or some of you who've watched his show, one of the more popular episodes I've had with Matt and Greg, who's a comic shop owner and a friend of Matt's, maybe more than a friend.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I don't want to. Let me find the chat. Where did that go? It's over here on the channel. Then I go to that. And then I pop out. Okay, if there's not some kind of audio-visual problem, then it's not a Doug Show. Okay, there we go. So now I can read the chat. Okay, everybody. Welcome. We're going to talk about comics, running Greg's comic store, Greg's great book, A Space Odyssey, which is down in the description. You guys got to click on that. It's a web comic, and he's done a nice print-on-demand book full of stuff. And then also we have Matt. He's already been on the show once, does a Fox in Space, the animated show, and makes really cool printed and handcrafted puppets of his characters. I got to make sure that they can hear you.
Blah, blah, words.
Can you guys hear us? Because I swear I've had whole shows where I talked for 15 minutes and they couldn't hear me. Here's Wigs Biggs for $10. Thank you. On a super chat. Found the last stream inspiring. I just promise you this stream will be nowhere near as dramatic or relevant or interesting. So lower your expectations, man. Been trying to make my own story on my own. Hope to share it someday. Ooh, that sounds good.
Absolutely love to hear
I love stories. Reagan says, I hear you all. Reagan, do you want to come on the show?
Yeah, Reagan, come on. Absolutely.
So we're hanging out because, Matt, can we talk about your dad a little?
Yeah, sure. He's getting some Alzheimer's pretty bad. And I'm down to visit and see how everybody's doing. And I would have been here sooner, but complications with stuff.
So Matt's visiting his dad. He has Alzheimer's, and he's in town. And so he was so huge on my show, and we became good buddies, that he's back on live in the studio. This is an inside studio show. I like it. So thanks for coming.
Oh, I'm very, very honored to be here.
And we just had Mexican food at Tito's. You saw the koi pond. And tell them about
badass.
What did you have at Tito's?
What did I have at Tito's? I had the shredded chicken burrito with salsa verde, a shredded beef enchilada, and then refried beans and rice.
Greg, what did you have?
I had a chimichanga, enchilada, and something else. It was like a three-for combo.
A three-for.
Yeah, it was good.
I had a beef enchilada, a chicken burrito with green sauce on it, and 2 tacos. And we're all bloated with Mexican food, even though it's Tennessee Mexican food. So, Greg, how long you told me the story of how you kind of inherited your comic shop, or you bought it up in Maine?
No, it's in New Brunswick, Canada.
New Brunswick, Canada. I'm sorry, you're Canadian.
Yeah.
It's like an hour from where I live in St. John, New Brunswick.
So we had our first illegal alien on the show. Greg, build that northern wall. Wall. And
he's had his shots.
We've been trying.
Okay, how long have you had the comic book store? I'm sorry.
We've had it for 5 years. So we just celebrated the 5-year anniversary the 1st of October.
And so you have a unique perspective being a comic book owner and a comic book maker. What's that make you feel like, that because you're contributing to this craft and you sell it?
Well, it's nice to be able to, I guess, have access to all these stories right at my fingertips. These people who have motivated me to sort of do the same thing, and owning a comic book store, you get a lot of people who come and go who have similar experience or similar aspirations. Because the person in chat there earlier mentioned the whole, I want to create my own story, that you inspired me to create my own story. And that's sort of why I got started, was other people who were inspired by comics and started making their own stories and wanting to do that, and wanting to do something that was uniquely mine and write my own story, and write something for me.
This is what I love. Okay, we all have the big sellers, and those are awesome too. I mark those to steal all the good ideas out of them. But to have a guy who, this was on your bucket list of stuff to do.
So I was just mentioning earlier, when I turned 39, I was like, oh, geez, I hadn't drawn in years, probably at least 7 or 8 years. And I used to draw fairly regularly, and my skills have, as a result.
You got to stay frosty.
Well, that's the thing, and I came to realize, you know what? There's no excuse not to start doing it now. And I dropped.
No regrets.
And I worked 3 jobs, so I had to make some choices around how I spent my free time. Where was my time being wasted? Because I wanted to reprioritize drawing, and I started just drawing more and more and more, and then eventually got to the point where it's like, you know what, I want to draw every day. If I'm going to get better at this, I want to do it every day. So let's get that bucket list item taken off, and let's start doing a webcomic. And I'd wanted to do one for years, and always, especially when you see the full color ones, I'm like, oh, wow, I can't imagine how much time goes into doing a webcomic twice or 3 times a week in full color. It's like, well, let's find out.
And are you hosting your own webcomic right now on that link? Is that your own hosting, or do you put it on a site?
It's through a friend of mine, so it is my own.
It's a Visual Voodoo.
Yeah, Visual Voodoo is managed by a friend of mine, but yeah, it is mine. It's not hosted through any other comic.
And is your plan just to get it out there or make money?
Get out there.
Get it out there.
All I really cared about was I wanted to get my story written. Again, my artwork when I started off, my skills really needed improvement significantly, and that was part of this exercise, was just to get better. And it was for me. It was always for me. It was never about making money.
That's great. So a pure storyteller, not about, because you already have jobs, and it doesn't, to not have to monetize it means you don't have to think, well, what's going to sell? You can just think, well, what story do I want to tell?
Exactly. Yeah. So where do I want to go? This, the characters were all created with the intention of using them as a means to vent or express my own worries or concerns or issues. And I wrote them each. I know this is something, you hear people say, don't put yourself in your characters or whatnot, but I very much do that.
I approve.
It's therapy. It was a way for me to deal, especially when I first started writing and had a bunch of things going on in my life that were causing me a lot of stress. So it was a therapeutic exercise.
Like a journal, or like a fantasy journal almost. Here's Mike Angerhauser for $5. Thank you, Mike. Love the show, Doug. Can you support Black Forest Indiegogo with my friend Betty Bright Eye? I think I saw this link. You sent it to me earlier. Send me a PM or an email, dougT@tenaple, and I'll take another look at it. Thank you for that super chat. That's Black Forest on Indiegogo. Yeah. Yeah, I saw some of that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, here's an all caps thing. CJ3. It's the great and mighty Worm Spirit, and he's hosting Frederick Fox, PHOX. That's you. Oh, he's on. Okay, so you're doing your comic and running a store, and they can check out they can get your comic in the link down there. I also put Fred Fox, or Matt, his link down there where you guys can check out his YouTube channel, A Fox in Space, where he does his own independent animated cartoon, and he builds puppets, which is enough.
We'll be building. I've got to master that sewing machine, and they'll be ready to go.
You got the hard part done, though, the face.
Yeah, the physics and the mechanisms like that. It took 5 or 6 months to get it down, but once you get the eye movements and everything, like I said the last time, the rest is just replacing the muzzle with a beak, and you've still got the same stuff.
Are you going to do a breakout arm so he has a human gloved hand?
See, I'm
a one-handed puppet.
I'm not going to do the Swedish Chef thing. If that's what you're talking about.
I don't mean real hands. I mean an actual puppeted.
Yeah, like a little wire driven, like with a long wire, like Kermit the Frog on Sesame Street and stuff.
A single puppet thing. And so you're in town. Did you drive here?
Yes. I'm staying with some friends in Oak Ridge, which is, it's a Knoxville suburb pretty much. And when we were coming down, like I told you online, I realized that it was so close to you that, you know, you had already invited me to come out and hang out. And I was like, it's kind of like synchronicity.
Anytime. You guys got to find another excuse to come out.
Oh, I'm going to be coming down like every couple months. So
Cool.
you'll get sick of me before it's
No,
over.
it'll be great. We'll do our show. We'll just keep doing this show.
Oh, yeah.
We have to think of something to sing. What song do we all know? Jingle Bells. We all know Jingle Bells.
What about something Halloween themed?
We
How
all
many
know,
Halloween songs are there?
Yeah, there's only Monster Mash.
Ugh.
It's terrible. There's no good Halloween songs. I forget. It's probably a bad idea. Can you sing, Greg?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
What do you like to sing? What music do you like?
I have a very eclectic taste.
Christopher.
Christopher, yeah, actually, I do know a lot of Christopher. Trying to think of some of the other.
Some good old maritime fiddling songs.
Yeah, so like Great Big Sea and trying to think of some.
If there's any Canadian people out there watching.
I don't.
All three of you.
I don't
Any
do
true
Nickelback.
North Canadians.
Despite being Canadian, I don't do Nickelback.
You don't do Nickelback. Yeah, you don't do that.
I don't fault them, but I don't.
No, they're good. They're good. They're just everyone decided they were going to hate them all at once. Kind of like YouTube now when they turn against you.
If they knew if they had a formula, and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, Mumford and
They
Sons.
still sell out.
Yep.
That's what it comes
Mumford and
down
Sons,
to.
I'll listen to them.
Tourist tickets and T-shirts, and they get them.
And I'm a amateur puppeteer. I never did anything as aggressive as what you did, but I did do the rod hands, and I did my own breakout hand on a puppet.
I do want to ask you about one little creature that I guess you designed. The living ashtray, the thing that comes up and
Oh, yeah, that's-
the cord ashes into its
Yeah.
mouth. And
That was Mothman. That was I shot a movie on 35 millimeter in West Virginia in 1998 called Mothman, based on a real urban legend. And Mothman is the main bad guy in the Bigfoot Bill, this first book. He's the main guy. It's not a true story, but I mean, it's an urban legend from Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966. And I built this huge Mothman puppet. It was like 13 feet long, and it had an arm that went up into the head, and that's just a straight white sock that we used for the arm. And you hid behind its torso, and it had these huge kind of almost like chicken wings that had little feathers kind of stuck off it. And it's like a 13-foot tall creature that attacks the guy in the movie. And it was all like on a pulley system. And we rented out a hotel. It was in this real dark hotel at the time. And so I had that head laying around while I was shooting that scene in Sock Baby as Lord
so that was just like the head.
So yeah, I go, oh, he's going to flick his ass up in this thing's
I
mouth.
love that
Like,
segment so
Well,
much.
it's not that flicks his mouth, just the weirdest ashtray ever. That's my Mothman puppet. I don't know where that head is. It started stinking because the latex was so rotten after a while.
That's one thing I want to get into it so bad, but they say that after a while the puppets will rot. They recently found the old Hoggle animatronic from Labyrinth that was in Airport Lost and Found for like 30 years, and it's just rotted. So sad.
Hoggle. Yeah, and that was disturbing because they should have just had an old man play that thing. But it was a cool puppet. I like the smell bad.
Oh, Ludo.
Ludo, yeah, was cool. But the creatures whose heads come off, that was just an awful song.
The Fireys, yeah.
That was a loss.
Terrifying too as a child watching that. Now you look at it, you
Take off her head.
That was a lost opportunity. But I like all the gags. I'm a big Bowie fan. That's why Earth Room Jim has 2 different colored irises. It's from David Bowie. Just a big Bowie. In fact, I just introduced that on Bigfoot Bill on the video game. Let me see if I have one of the animations to show you here. So,
Yeah, I've only seen the Sprite ones.
yeah, you can see
Yeah, I
here
didn't
on
see these.
that's his health meter. Let me see if I can get these. I don't know if I can get these to play on if I do a screen share so they can see these animations here. See if you can see this. Can you see that? Yeah. Yeah. So this is the Bigfoot Bill health animation that goes in the upper left hand of the video game that comes free with the Indiegogo book for Bigfoot Bill. So go to Indiegogo, support the book, and you get the Bigfoot Bill game. but that's the animation. See, it's two different. I introduced the different
Yeah.
viruses on.
That's really cool.
That's all. That's all. Okay, we've already nailed down Matt on religion and politics. Let's attack Greg. Greg, politics. Where are you at? Does it even mean anything in Canada? Do you guys even have political anything?
Well, it's weird because our politics are probably, if you took like U.S. left and right, like Canadian left and right has just shifted that much. It's a little more to the left.
Yeah, yeah.
So our liberals are probably a couple steps left of U.S. Democrats, I would think.
Yeah.
But we have a three-party system. Well, I mean, we used to have there are other parties, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The major parties right now, we have three of them. So that's sort of nice. It gives you the illusion of a bit more choice, although realistically, it's only the two parties.
Realistically, the third one, still the bastard
yeah.
child, just like our libertarians.
Does anyone ever get elected from the third party?
Well, we had, not this previous election, the election before that, the NDP party, when Jack Layton was running it, they became the official opposition.
Wow.
But after he passed away, and it goes to show you what a good leader can do, because once he passed away, the party just sort of receded, which is a shame, because it was nice to see that the fact that people now realized, okay, this is a serious thing now, so we have one more choice.
And you've seen the political vitriol in America just escalate. Is there a political escalation in Canada also? Probably to a much lesser value, but is there one escalating?
It's getting there, which is a little like we recently in my province had an election, and there's now the People's Party, I believe. So it's a populist party. So we're seeing a lot of that pop up, which we're seeing like the whole populism idea is sprung up a lot in the States.
Right.
Within the Republican Party. We're seeing
That's right.
a lot of that showing up in Canada. We're also seeing a lot of the division, the hardline division that we're seeing in the States. It's sort of to a lesser extent. It's more polite.
Yeah.
And it's still there. It's still disconcerting because it worries me when you see the breakdown of dialogue where, like, any provincial election I walk into, going, okay, well, I'm going to vote for whoever represents what I want to see happen in the government. And my province is kind of funny because we've always alternated. So we've had 4 years of Party A. We get angry and annoyed with them, so we just vote in Party B. And after 4 years, we're annoyed with them, so we vote in Party A again. But it's nice to know you can go in and be, okay, like, I have no real I have no real attachment to one party or another, so whoever speaks to me.
But when the opposite party that you voted for goes into office, do you go, we're screwed now?
No.
Now it's ruined.
At least not until more recently. More recently, especially at the federal level, like the Conservative Party has taken more of a hard line. They've drifted farther right. So it just, things become more polar, and you do get very much that same feeling you get that I see in a lot of the U.S. forums, where it's like, conservatives, rah, liberals, rah, the liberals, or a liberal, where those are terms that are used derisively to demean people who might vote in that bucket, which is unfortunate because, again, I think that breaks down dialogue, and it makes for bad politics all around.
I just think liberal is already a terrible thing to call someone.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You get those conversations like you see in forums where you see people like, I'll liberal this, or conservative that, or Republican or Democrat, or there's less kind terms they use for it as well.
X-wing nut job.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that.
Has anyone been called?
That's the thing.
Has anyone been called a Nazi yet over there? Do they call them Nazis yet?
No, I haven't heard that associated with any particular party yet.
All right. Well, we have it all over America now. That's everyone's favorite word.
And
Nazi hippie.
Yeah,
Hippie is not.
The whole like far right this, far left that, and everyone who happens to be left is far left, and everyone who happens to be right is far right.
That's right.
Because again, it's just throwing people into buckets, and I find that's not constructive in the slightest.
Well, everyone to my right is far right, and everyone to my left is far left, and unacceptably so. I just want to state that.
And I tend to be like, I know politically, I tend to be left leaning,
Uh-huh.
but I'm certainly not closed minded as to have never put the check mark beside, other parties, depending on what they're voting for or what they're running for, what their platform is. So yeah, that's sort of my political stance. I've been in my share when I was younger, my share of marches and whatnot. And I've also sat there and listened to someone lead marches and whatnot, and then like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, you're not. Have you ever thrown an object in a march?
No.
That's what separates the men from the boys. Is when you've thrown an object in a march, then you're really. Then you cross the line.
We did an anti-violence rally one year, and
we beat the crap out of the other side.
Yeah, well, it was one of those funny things where things where you do get those people who like to put people into buckets,
right?
And where that becomes a problem. So it was an anti-violence rally for a friend of mine who had been assaulted while he was coming out of a gay bar, put in the hospital.
Can't do that.
But it was an anti-violence rally. This wasn't a gay rights thing. This was to acknowledge the fact that there was a lot of violence going on in the city that we're living in, violence against the gay and lesbian community, violence against women, so on and so forth. People just didn't feel safe. So we did this rally, and we had members from the church who were there with us. We had the police were there with us, all supporting us, so on and so forth, and helping us with this march. And this individual gets up and starts, speaking to the crowd about violence.
Church.
And then it gets to that. It's like, this is the church's fault. This is the government's fault. And you're looking to your left and you're to your right, and like, here are people
government workers in church.
Yeah, here are people in the government, and they're there to support you. And this person is just throwing them into silos and demonizing them, and you're just embarrassed.
Not cool.
And it's like these are our allies, and you're speaking ill of them because they fall into this bucket that you perceive to be this evil
Poor
bucket.
event coordination.
At the very least, yeah.
And I've never been so angry. And again, it turned into, through her, this whole gay rights thing, which I'm all for, don't get me wrong. But again, it became an us versus them and not a we event.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that these days where it's us versus them, not we as a group need to address our problems, or we as a group have these things that we need to overcome together instead.
Is there a political expectation in gay culture? Like there's conservative evangelical cultures in America, and if you're gay, are you automatically in a certain party?
Again, where Canada has multiple parties, it's not as likely. The exception would be...
Is there a most gay party in Canada?
Probably say either the NDP or the Liberals.
Technically, there would have to be.
Really, with us, I'd say there's just one party that's always had an anti-gay stance, and that's been the Conservative Party, Progressive Conservatives. And they've been the ones who have been like anti-gay rights. They were the ones who were anti-gay marriage. They were the ones who were anti this, that, everything.
Anti-gay adoption.
And that seems to be a trend with them. They're also the same ones who are anti-immigration, anti-this, anti-that. Anyway, so they're the ones that typically, if someone's like, "Oh, I'm gay and I'm a conservative," like the rest of the gay community is like, "Really?
What you doing over there?
And this is why you're wrong." And that's again, that's another problem, is the fact that, oh, well, how could you be gay and be for conservative? Same as the U.S. Like, how could you be a gay Republican? Or how?
No, they're black Trump supporters.
Yeah,
and they're considered sellouts. Like, how can you? I thought your skin color was a party.
Yeah, people like to say.
And it really comes down to, okay, well, they may differ, or they may not agree on some things, but there may be a large list of things that this person considers a priority. It could be in terms of like economics, or, the Conservative Party is very much pro-development of our oil sands, so on and so forth. So that might be one of the things that they're strongly in support of, or it could be some other item on their platform that they're like, I believe in this that the Conservatives want to do, and I find these are more important than gay marriage, or I might be part of the LGBT community, not care about gay marriage.
Right.
Like that's the thing, and
and
then that might just be at the bottom. They don't care, so they'll vote conservative.
So we let people be individuals at least, and then
to a degree.
Let them take what they need to take.
That's the thing. I think like if I think it's the same discussion you guys had last time. If you can justify your reasons for voting for one particular,
Yeah, that's all I ask.
So I remember reading on one of the websites this list of someone had written, here's some reasons why Middle America voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And listed off it was a really great article to read, especially from an outsider's point of view. You're looking from Canada going, what? What happened? And then being, okay, here's what happened and here's why it happened. You look and go, okay, I get it. I understand why these people voted the way they did. I understand the rationale behind it.
I'm buried in
I may or may not agree with it. I may think that there's a bigger picture out there, one way or another. I mean, I have my own personal views on U.S. politics in the previous election.
I'm burying the needle down the right, and I've always voted on the right, and for every rightist candidate and for every rightist project. But there are things that I care a whole lot less about, and one of them is illegal immigration. Is one that I'll vote, for a more conservative view of immigration, but it's not the hill I'm going to die on. That's not one that is as big or whatever. There's a whole lot of those things on the right where I just don't feel as strong about certain things on the right as others. And other things are just non-negotiable to me.
Yeah.
The unborn, rights to the unborn. All right, so politics aside, now that controversial topic's over, let's talk about God. What do you believe about religion or God or the existence of a creator?
So that's another one where I'm not a religious person.
Sure.
So I'm not. I wouldn't call myself Christian or anything along those lines.
Somewhere between atheist and hopeful agnostic.
Yeah, I'm sort of in that bucket. I have friends who are Christian. I have friends who are pick a denomination, and I don't think anything one way or another. These are all.
But you personally don't think there's a creator, let's say, or a divine mind that brought everything into being, who's
I'm going to say
involved with man.
I lean towards no. I wish there were. I really do. And I do so for selfish reasons. I see all of these things happening in the world these days. I'm like, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there is an afterlife, and I hope they get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
Or tragic things happen to good people. You're like, I hope there's an afterlife, and I hope that they find,
you hope
some peace in their afterlife
proverbial
equal
better
to the
place.
suffering that they've had to go through here today.
There can be no justice unless there is an afterlife. That doesn't mean there is one.
Yeah.
But there will never be
Because
justice.
the worms thing you said,
Yeah.
What was it you said? The same worms
Worm
that
food.
eat Hitler are the same worms that eat your best friend.
Eat the best person you ever met.
And I often, the back of my mind, there's that little twisted part of me. It's like, what? I really kind of wish that, there is some Messiah figure that shows up and on our day of reckoning and walks up to a lot of people and slaps them around and goes, you did this in my name, and you did all these terrible things to my people in my name. And you are really misaligned in your views. I almost wish that, this thing that so many people we're just waiting for this day of the second coming and so on and so forth. I'm like, you know what? This is one of those times where I wish I was wrong, if only for someone to show up and say, you know what? You're right, but you used it to mean things to good people, and that's not cool.
My impression is that most evil people who do evil things do get away with it on Earth.
Yep.
I actually think even the little things that we do, in general, we get away with wrong things.
That's just the evil things that we know about.
That's the evil things we know about. So imagine if at the end of life, if the most evil person in the world basically got away with it and might have gotten rewarded for it his whole life, just lived a long life of pleasure, and had just a whole list of bodies strewn behind him. Wouldn't it bring you some level of peace to know that there was something for that guy in the afterlife, that he had to pay for it or face it, or just
absolutely
just go away and woo, that was a good life.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I do wish that, and on both sides of the coin, I know people who have led very good lives and have known a lot of hardships as a result. I'm like, I hope there is something there for them when this is all said and done, that there's someone there saying, hey, you're a great person, thumbs up to you, you're wonderful to your fellow man, and here's a pat in the back, and here's your eternal reward. I would love for that to be the case.
So if we go back to that worldview, though, that there is no supernatural being at the end of time, put that aside. And so if you want to do good your whole life, and that good that you did your whole life was only punished, you lost money, it was a great personal effort, no one noticed. And the other person who does evil his whole life only got rewarded, only experienced pleasure, personal pleasure at the cost of others for it. Can you make a philosophical argument against, like, is there a reason why both of them should do it if there is no
return,
no author of everything?
Yeah, it's strange. I'm a firm believer that, regardless, as much as we know that the reality isn't so, I like to, in the back of my mind, think, you reap what you sow. And in all honesty, I think being a good person and showing compassion towards others does give you returns.
It is also a
it's
reward.
Not a
in itself.
financial reward. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
luxury or comfort. To some levels, it's a spiritual reward, and just in the knowing that you've done good things. And oftentimes, when you are down, those do come back around. Like if you've done good things for people and you fall on bad luck, I found more often than not, that compassion you've shown towards others turns back to you in your time of need.
That's why I took that hypothetical away in the hypothetical example I gave, is that you don't get to experience the reward at all. For instance, if you did something good in the last moments of your life and you're 12 years old and you stood up when a terrorist was blowing people away in a cafe, and you stood up for the first time and took a bullet and you're gone. He didn't get to sit there and say, oh, good's its own reward in that moment. He's gone.
But again, it's the
should he still do it?
Absolutely, because I think it's the knowledge, even in the end, that you've done good for others that can be its own reward. I think that the act itself can be its reward. I truly believe that being a kind person should be all you wish out of life. Like, I've often thought, and I know this is a morbid thing to think, what would happen if I were hit by a bus?
Yeah.
Just what would I think of my life?
Yeah.
Like, what my accomplishments were. Would I be happy? Would I be sad? And 100%, I'd be like completely content with where things have gone and what has come of me.
You'd be glad you made this.
Yeah,
at least.
That's
no regrets.
One less regret off of my to-do list. My bucket list has been cleared off. But even in terms of I grew up as a kid like being overweight, and then the kid that's always picked on school.
Yeah.
There's always those people thinking that this was it. This is my lot in life. I was the fat kid. I would never have friends, or might have one or two or whatnot, and that was that. But I still was always a good person. And I remember I fell in with this gaming group at the behest of another friend of mine. And I met people that I had known in high school. And that was always the thing they said. It was like, we always thought you were a good person.
Uh-huh.
I went to
But we treated you like crap because you were fat.
Yeah, well, that's high school. But I mean, I went to my 20th high school reunion not too long ago and had people like, oh, we always thought you was the nice guy who worked at the library.
Mm-hmm.
And his lunch hours, like, I worked at the library. So it's the only way to get away from you freaks.
Because you guys made fun.
But now I've got more friends than I have time for. Like, I know for a fact that if something were to happen, I would have friends to lean on.
Yeah.
These are relationships I've fostered by being kind to others and doing, I would hope, hopefully they agree with me, that by making those connections and helping other people when they needed it and being there for people when they needed it. Comic book store is a fine example. Like, that was two friends of mine who really wanted to make their dream a reality. They wanted to own their own comic book store. And I told them from the get-go, I was like, if you need anything, let me know. If you need anything, let me know. And they had a lot of struggles trying to get financing, and I was always there. It's like, if you need me, let me know. And my friend Chris, one day, he was sitting down, and he was like, what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
When you keep saying, if you need anything, let me know, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, I've got,
Because we need to make this body disappear.
I have an IT background. I've got, I make a fairly good wage. I have, some funds. Like if you need money, I can probably help in that area. And that's how I got involved, was helping them with the finances to get this business started.
Okay, hold on, because I'm going to get to that business in a minute, but I've got another super chat that's getting away from me. From Emperor Tiger Star for $5, thank you. Now that you've talked about religion and politics, what are your thoughts on the Great Pumpkin then? Charlie Brown, the Great Pumpkin.
Hell of a guy.
Any thoughts on that?
Never seen him in person. But
Linus stays up faithfully waiting for this mythical being to show up. It's the Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown is the animated special.
What a fool I was.
What a fool I was. Here's Rory McWilliams for $5. Thank you. Seeing how Fred is now here with wonderful people shows that hard work can pay off. I'm lucky to have the privilege to be here with everyone. What a kind person.
I love you, Rory.
What good people. But I want to get into your store and how does it work? How do you buy stock every month of new books that come in every monthly and
weekly?
Yeah. And you got to stock them.
Yep.
And on the day they land, are there people in line to get their polls from your shop?
Every Wednesday.
What's the big seller? What are they after?
It's usually whatever the latest DC or Marvel titles would be. This is where I wish Steve or Chris, who are my partners.
Do they hold the nose and buy Squirrel Girl anyways?
A lot of them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure we have people down for Squirrel Girl. We have people down for a number of different titles. That was always the funny thing too, because we had this discussion recently about the Harley Quinn TV series that's in the work.
Yeah.
So
Any big independent titles ever catch anybody's fancy?
I have to think about that one. I'm sure there are. We have a book club as well. We tend to focus on a lot of indie comics. Yeah, it's sort of funny because someone was mentioning the Harlequin TV series. Like, who would want that?
Yeah.
A lot of people.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm pretty sure our pull list suggests that there is a good audience for it.
It's because she's a hot goth girl in go-go shorts and the tied top and pony pigtails.
And there's a real there's that side of it. There is the fact that she is, a lot of men find her interesting and attractive, but you also have the flip side of it, where there's a lot of female audience members who are desperate for strong. And let's debate the Harley Quinn whether or not she's a strong female role model or not, but at least
she has a very big
female
presence.
comic character that they can enjoy. So I think there's that audience as well.
What percentage of your customers are females versus males buying comics?
I was hoping you would ask that one, because we're looking at probably judging by our pull list, and you have to keep in mind that we often get couples who will have the same file. I'd say probably 35 to 40% are women.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So, and then this would drive us nuts, because we would always get compared to the shops you see in Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
And we're like looking around going, okay, well, for starters, we have almost half of our staff is at one point was female. So we have female people who work and volunteer for the store. We have, our Magic community, with a number of like Magic the Gathering, the card game, we run those events a lot. We have a number of female players who are among some of our strongest players, and it's always hilarious to watch.
Do you play Magic?
I do, yeah. I'm a big Magic nerd.
Is that like you tap trees and you tap the water?
Yeah, tap the forest and tap
the
forest. All that fun stuff. But it's always.
Do you also buy and sell used cards?
We do, yeah.
And what percentage of your not exact percentage, but how significant is the resale market in your store of selling used comics and used D&D and used Magic and used Pokemon stuff?
We do mostly, we keep back issues of comics. So anything that comes off our shelves that didn't sell tends to go in our back issue bins. We have a very modest selection of really old stuff.
Yeah.
And
so guys come in and dump their collection.
Yep.
And
we will pick up the collection if there's stuff there that is of interest. We're expanding a bit more into that, where we hadn't originally, because it's money. Like, you can't just go and say, okay, well, you have this, Fantastic Four #1. We can't afford to give you, the thousands of dollars this might, that this might fetch. But we have started doing some things on commission as well. And so there's
Do you
a
have
lot
an
of
eBay
selection
portion
there.
also where you put these online to reach a worldwide distribution?
Yes, especially with some Magic's a great example. There are some cards that locally there's not the demand for them because either the price or
Right.
the kinds of games that are played don't need those cards, and yet, or people just can't afford the amount of money that they're worth. So we'll look to eBay as an option. So there's that facet as well. We don't keep a whole lot. A lot of the stuff we do keep is newer. We do have a modest selection of older stuff, and again, it's mostly just comics and like the Magic cards.
Yeah.
And even those can be very tricky because the markets tend to have their ebbs and flows. Magic in particular, you could have something that's worth $20 one day, and then there's an announcement, hey, we banned this card, you can't play anymore.
Yeah.
So that was $20 card. I had a buddy of mine who had,
It's not canon.
yeah, so I had a buddy who had
Non-canonical.
bought up like 40 or 50 of these cards for his decks, and then like
These weren't the unglued
one
ones,
day,
were they?
no, one day, like, oh, these are banned. So he's now got like these cards that were worth $20 a pop, and now they're worth less than $1. So that's the chance you always take. So yeah, it's interesting. We do that as well.
Do you charge for people to play? Is that part of the market, or can they come in and play?
Depends. We have tables available for use for people to come in and play whatever game they want. We do organized events, and depending on the event, some events do have an admission fee.
The draft thing.
Yeah, especially if there's a cost involved in either what they're playing with. So they're doing a draft, which involves opening packs of cards.
Sure.
They'll be paying for that.
Sure.
Prize support, they may be paying for the prize support. So there is a fee, but again, like we have casual events on occasion. We have D&D. They run Dungeons and Dragons, and that's
I'm a
no
D&D.
issue.
What about the future of having a comic book store? People talk about the death of the comic book store down to only 2,000 in America. And your comic book store does very well. Do you see a future? Is the model going to hold and continue into the future? Is that your?
Well, I think there's an appreciation for first of all, there's the physical play space, the physical community, being able to connect with other people, which is very important. And one of the reasons I think that local game stores, people need to pay more attention to their local game stores versus, picking your stuff up online or through other means. It's unlike other businesses, your local game store is also the means through which you make those connections to be able to enjoy those games. D&D being a great example. Like if you're looking to play D&D with some friends, where do you go? Where do you meet these people? I've got a Magic collection that I want to go play Magic. Well, where do you go?
Yeah.
Walmart's not going to host a Magic game.
That's right.
So having those there is one facet. I mean, as a comic book store, like we're comics and games, so we diversify as much as possible. We also have apparel.
Okay.
So we do a lot more in that regards as well. Plus, we try to be involved in the community. So we do things for the community to help be more involved in the community, and that hopefully comes back around as well. So that's the whole like doing nice things for other people, and hopefully it pays off in the end.
What if you opened up a nerd dating site? Because it seems there'd be big interest in
I
that.
think that already exists. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
but I mean in your store, where it was a meet and greet date night.
Speed dating.
Yeah, we talked.
Single-
Yeah,
Nerd speed
For
dating.
nerds.
we had talked about that once. I don't know how serious it was. We had that joke because we did do stuff like for Valentine's Day. We have done like Valentine's Day related events. We did a ladies' night years ago, which we really should think about doing again. That was quite popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, free comic book day.
Yeah,
too,
we have
that
free
was-
comic book day every year. There's the Halloween Comic Fest that we do. And again, that's a great opportunity or a great example of the benefits of a physical comic book store. We have these free comic book day events and the Halloween Comic Fest events.
You've heard of free
So-
comic book day, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's
I
an
never
opportunity for
participated,
people
but I've heard people picked up my books there.
yeah, so people bring their kids or whatnot. They come in, they get some cake or some Halloween treats. They dress up in costume. They get their free comics that they can take home. And hopefully, we usually do very well financially in those days as well, because they do buy other product. But it's a fun little event and a fun little experience. So a fun way to try things you would never have tried before. Like there are comics that I picked up for free comic book day I would never have thought to pick up otherwise. It's like, oh, great, free comic. And I read it. It's like, oh, this is really good. I want to read more about this character or that character, or especially some of the indie stuff that you don't see otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I would never have thought to pick this up before.
Okay, so let's wrap it up with Matt. Tell me about your schedule when you get home. When are you getting home and back to work?
Well, I'm probably going to be streaming when I get back to my buddy's house tonight. So that I went for a little last night, but I wanted to get in bed early so I can get here on time.
Streaming on a Fox in Space?
Yeah, I did. That's the Twitch. I haven't been streaming on YouTube because.
So they go to Twitch and go to a Fox in Space, and they'll see your stream.
Yeah, it's the Fox in Space show.
But
if you just like on YouTube, if you don't know the name of the channel and you go to their search thing on the main page and type in a Fox in Space, whatever the alias for my thing is, it's going to be the first one to come up.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't go on vacation for any length of time.
Yep. I go to a furry or a comic book convention or something, the Friday to Sunday fair.
Yeah.
And by the time I get to Sunday, it's like the nicotine itch. I got to get back on my cartoon. I haven't worked on my cartoon in 48 hours.
Unless the furries tie you up and throw you in their basement, which they're known to do. You might. So if you don't show up, we'll send out a quick alert. So you're going to be back, and what's your schedule going to be like when you get home and get back to work?
Well, I'm going to be here until we're going back Saturday. We're driving back up to Maine Saturday, and he's going to drop me off at my place. Then he's going to drive, another hour to his house in New Brunswick. And probably right when I get home, if I don't have, the car equivalent of jet lag, I'll get right back to it. I've been trying to stay just strictly Monday through Friday from noonish to nightish, as long as I get at least 40 hours of streaming done. But I end up doing it on the weekend anyway.
Yeah.
I sit there, if he's not over and I'm bored and there's nothing to do, I just end up streaming and working on my cartoon. I can't escape from it. But I don't want to escape from it. So it's a fair trade.
And I'll get on your show. We're going to do that. And guys, that's it. I'd like to thank my guest, Matt, Greg, and of course, your involvement as usual. Thanks for being on the Doug Show. We're just hanging out, just a bunch of guys having a chat. This has been the Doug Show. Oh.